Does the guy know he's supposed to be?
Calling to order the regular meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Wednesday, August 25th. Please stand for the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blanova is absent with previous notice. Commissioner Berkey?
Here.
Commissioner Sprague is here. Commissioner Yednak?
Present.
Commissioner Heiken?
Here.
Commissioner Riles?
Here.
Chairman Johnson?
Here. Ms. Nyes, any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
All right. We have no citizens on hand, so we have no concerns and comments. We have no consent items. So our first item for review is docket number 2021-30, the sign variation to approve 4 cabinet signs, 224 South Milwaukee Avenue, and we have no petitioner here for that.
Why don't we just pass over that, go on to the next item, and then we can evaluate if we need to continue it or not. Maybe he's running late.
All right, we'll see if they come later. All right, so item B, docket number 2021-31, text amendments to Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code in order to modify zoning regulations regarding fences and screening. Mr. Secretary.
The Village of Wheeling seeks text amendments to Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19 zoning, and associated chapters and sections in order to modify zoning regulations regarding fences and screening. A text amendment is an amendment to the map and or text of the zoning ordinance, which affects the whole village. In order to be considered for a text amendment, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including, but not limited to, how the proposed text amendment is compatible with Title 19 and the comprehensive plan. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for a text amendment as established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, I believe the floor is yours on this one.
Thank you. So, as you all know, staff had proposed some changes to, we were probably thinking fences, but you can't just change one thing. So we took a look at the whole chapter 1910-070 or 070, which is accessory uses, buildings and structures. This also affected the definition section, and I'll talk about that next. So these are the 8 main items that we changed. The first is just some general cleanup. A lot of it resulted from number 2, accessory uses, buildings and structures. We felt that buildings and structures were kind of the same thing, so we got rid of building, and now it's just accessory uses and structures. So anything referring to an accessory building is now an accessory structure. We added some general fence requirements that weren't clear. We changed that for number 4, fences used to be required 1 foot setback from the property line, and we know that's not the case. Most people want them on the property line, and usually if it's a foot back, that creates a 2-foot area in between them that can't be maintained. So we have added a sentence in there that says fences can be placed on the property line. Number 5, barbed wire was permitted in the industrial zoning district, so we have now prohibited that in all zoning districts. Number 6 is regarding chain link fences. So currently chain link fences can go in the front, it can extend beyond the front of a principal structure. So we would like to prohibit that except in industrial zoning districts. So in other zoning districts, it has to stay behind the front of the principal structure. Number 7 is there's 2 different regulations that were cleaned up about fence requirements for non-residential land uses abutting residential land uses. One was more about a non-residential land use. The other one was about outdoor storage and just requiring a fence for both of those. And the last one, which I'm sure we'll spend most of our time on, is we created 2 categories for fencing, screening in residential zoning districts. And this was based off another community that Mr. Clicker worked in, or Director Clicker. And that's where the new definitions came from, and this whole idea of these 2 categories. So any questions on this overall changes?
Just one on the barbed wire. So commercial properties that have 8-foot fences and barbed wire top, that is no longer permitted?
Correct, those would just become legal non-conforming.
Okay.
And it was only permitted in the industrial.
Right,
district,
yeah, and I figured it was only in high security required areas, you know, like the FedEx parking lots, the cannabis growers, or, you know, anything like that.
So that's a good point. When they want to come in and replace it, then
Yeah.
what happens?
If they want to come in and replace their fence, it would lose its legal non-conforming status. We could consider applying for a variance or exception. Obviously, they can always get a variation from that.
Actually, sorry, there is in here that you are allowed to replace like for like. So I think that's how they would be able to do
okay.
that.
Okay, but no new,
forgot about
No new barbed wire
comment.
fence.
Right, so it wouldn't be anything new.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I know ComEd uses barbed wire regularly in their substations.
Do they even get permits from us?
And I don't know what we have
I don't
around, like the water towers and stuff. Does the village use it?
Yeah, I don't know, that was one of my first questions when you said that. Why are we taking it out in general? Why not allow it in industrial zoning where applicable? You know, if we get somebody new come in, and why do it a variance, or why make somebody, you know, why lock in the existing users if we have somebody, if they want to build a substation, or like Commissioner Johnson said, or Chairman Johnson said, if we get a new user.
Right, I'm not sure we could do where applicable. We'd have to have some standards or guidelines, but the other option is to leave it alone in the industrial district. Because I think the places we're talking about would be just industrial.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it already said it had to be on an 8-foot tall fence, so I mean, you're taking the safety aspect out about kids climbing up there and getting hurt or something, I don't know. But what was the logic for taking it out completely? I guess that would be my question.
Just that it wasn't something we wanted to encourage in the village anymore.
I mean,
Well, I don't think leaving it in would encourage it. Again, it's limited to 8-foot fences and above, and only commercial areas. And they're not going to do it unless they feel they need it.
Right, we do get businesses that want to do it beyond FedEx and ComEd. So it's those situations where.
Yeah, and they must have good reason to want it, or they wouldn't spend the money on it. But
I don't know what it might do to their insurance rates, but they might have to pay higher insurance if they have a barbed wire fence, so they probably would make a conscious choice if they were going to do it.
Is that a look, do we want to see a lot of barbed wire fence in our industrial areas beyond the ones we talked about?
Well, again, I don't think we're encouraging it. It's just we're not making it too difficult if they feel they need it.
Is the old language, I'd have to go try to find it, did the old language restricted where if it was an industrial area bordering a residential area, I could see in that case we wouldn't want to allow it.
No, it's on page 3, and it's at the top. It was under permitted and prohibited fence screening types, and it was only a minimum of 5 feet above the ground. So it was barbed wire fencing is prohibited in all non-industrial districts. It is permitted in industrial districts, provided it is located a minimum of 5 feet above ground level and it does not overhang any lot lines.
Well, I would raise it above 5 feet then.
Is that something that they could come just to the Plan Commission for approval?
If we take it out,
No, for a variation, you mean?
Yeah,
If they came?
no.
If they wanted barbed wire?
Well, if we wanted to make it something to get authority on, we could add it in there.
we could say you just need plan commission approval?
Yeah,
But,
similar to, we have certain things that.
oh,
are
like
you-
irrigation?
Yeah. There's certain aspects, we could put it in there, I mean, we have the authority.
That way we could police it a little bit and still
It'd
allow
almost
it
be
if
treated
it's.
as a minor site plan, it'd be part of a minor site plan, but we would indicate that it would have to go through there, it wouldn't just be a fence permit, it'd have to be treated as a minor site plan consideration by the plan commission.
All fences in commercial areas are minor site plan.
Right, but we could specifically call out barbed wire considerations are generally not allowed, or not encouraged.
I just think we have to be more definitive in the code.
And also,
I think
so
it's
far,
either a yes or a no.
we've only heard from Chairman Johnson, myself, and Commissioner Sprague. I don't know if you did a poll, if the other commissioners agree or would lean towards just taking it out.
Well, we can't take a poll because we haven't decided what we want to take a poll on.
What's that?
Can't take a poll because we haven't really zeroed in on anything yet.
Well, I mean, if they were in favor of just eliminating them like Marcy did. I don't know if they agree with what we're
Okay,
saying.
if
about
we,
allowing it.
if we go with taking it out completely, people could, petitioner could still come and say, I really, really want an 8-foot tall chain link fence with barbed wire on top. They could ask for that. Okay, then let's leave it alone.
Are you saying make it a variance?
It would be a variance.
It would be a variance.
Well, yeah, but I thought some of our intent in the last several months has been to try to remove loopholes and administrative barriers.
Yeah, but this isn't a side yard fence kind of deal where we have one every month. This is something that comes up rarely, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, and you're probably going to be industrial people that have a slew of lawyers that can come represent it.
Yeah. Okay, so, sorry we got sidetracked on barbed wire there. You weren't expecting that, were you?
Anything else on just these primary changes?
I have one small concern. You had mentioned that you're changing the, allowing the fence to be on the property line. The only concern I have with that is along sidewalks. You're going to have a fence right up against the side of the sidewalk. And for someone that might be on a bike or,
Well,
it's going to make it tighter to get down the sidewalk.
we still have to look at the vision triangle, even if it's a driveway.
Yes. So,
I mean, I don't mind having that on the property line where there's not a sidewalk, but where there's a sidewalk, I'm thinking that maybe we should still have a little
well,
buffer.
the sidewalks typically aren't built up to the property line, or they shouldn't be, today's standards.
Okay.
If there are old ones, I think the homeowner, I think that would be a burden on the homeowner to have them have to mow a 1-foot strip between the fence and the sidewalk. I do see what you're saying, it
Yeah.
would be close, but most sidewalks,
'Cause you're gonna have
the
a-
right-of-way should have some room between, and that should be public property. But are there a lot of situations that you can think of?
Unfortunately, as you drive around, you don't see where the property lines are. You
Right.
just see where the fence and the sidewalk is.
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about where a fence would be right up against the sidewalk.
Correct.
You know?
So yeah, generally how the public right-of-way works, it's like, I don't know the dimensions, but it's a certain amount of feet from the end of the property line to the street. And we usually put the sidewalk as almost like in the middle or a couple feet off of the property line. We don't put sidewalks in general right on the property line.
Right, I'm just thinking maybe in some, in the
There
older
might be in
subdivisions,
older
there might be some,
Yeah,
in
there-
anything.
Sure, somewhere in town.
I'm sure somewhere there is, but, it shouldn't be very often.
Yeah, if the majority of them are, there's going to be a little buffer there, then
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay,
So this was a situation that really prompted us to look at the code, is somebody who has 2 front yards. They have their main front yard where their driveway is, and then they have another front yard, which is what we call a corner side yard. So they don't have access on this side, but it's adjacent to a street, so they're still subject to the front yard setback, which is 25 feet. So they've got a 25-foot setback in the front where their driveway is, and a 25-foot setback on this, what you would typically think is a side yard. So this part, if you're looking at the screen where I'm moving my mouse, this part is, the yellow is where people want to put their fence because they want to make this usable part of their backyard. But the green is where they're allowed to put their fence because they can't put it in this 25-foot setback area. So the main situation, well, there's 2 different situations we'll talk about, which I'll get to, but the majority of the ones we see are where you have this backyard, I lied, forget that, because this is the wrong scenario. So that's the main scenario, somebody having 2 front yards and being on a corner. And they want to put up a 6-foot fence. They could put up a 4-foot fence anywhere they want right now, even chain link. So this is the fence placement diagram, again, that was modeled off of another community. And I'll go through, let me go through the 2 different types of fences because I have them each highlighted. So the A is in this outside area. So we have 2 options that we wanted you to look at. So the type A fence could either be, both options are limited to 4 feet and they're a decorative or a natural fence. But in one option, they can't extend beyond the front of the principal structure. So if somebody wanted to put a split rail fence along the front property line, the first one wouldn't work. If they wanted to put it, some sort of decorative fencing in this area that's shaded for A, number 1 wouldn't work. So we wanted to get your thoughts on these 4-foot decorative fences being within that front 25 feet. They're only 4 feet tall. They're a decorative or natural fence, but I guess I should skip ahead really quick to the definition section where again, we did not come up with these definitions on our own. We did model it off somebody else. So a decorative fence is an open fence, but does not include chain link, designed in such a manner that it is decorative or enhances the appearance of the property. So this would not be a solid wood fence. And then
how do you define open fence? I mean, board on board is sort of open, you can see through it.
Right, we did not go into a percentage of open. And then the second one, natural fence, is a wood fence or landscaping up to 4 feet, which is what is currently allowed. You can put a 4-foot fence. But again, we're saying, do you want to allow these 4-foot fences up anywhere in the front yard, or should we be stopping those so they don't extend beyond the front plane of the house? So thoughts on that?
I'm good with the second option, allowing them to be anywhere.
You like that option?
Yeah, without knowing what type of fence, I mean, a little section of split rail fence for decorative purposes, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but
It could be a solid fence too, so board on board, it's irrelevant,
yeah.
because it's a wood fence.
Well, I think we're bouncing around a bit. I'm just wondering if you want to do your whole presentation and then we come back and you,
Sure.
sounds like you have some questions that you want the commission to vote on. Maybe do your list of questions, and I'm hoping we'll go through commissioner by commissioner so we can maybe bring up other things
Sure.
that we may have noticed. But, I mean, if we keep opening up the discussion,
Yeah, and
we're
this
not
is.
capturing what we're deciding, I guess.
Sure. And this is really my only question. And there's just one more thing after this, so I'll finish and then we can go.
So, but just to clarify for this section, you're talking about even a solid wood fence can be can be past the plane of the house, is one of the options.
Yes, because that's how it,
Yeah.
or, yes.
Are you changing to not allow 6-foot fences anywhere now?
No,
Okay, so it's just,
but a 6-foot fence wouldn't have been allowed in the front yard setback.
well, what about the corner lots here? How was this
Because
section?
these are not exceeding 4 feet.
Right, but we've been dealing with the corner lots wanting a 6-foot fence on their side yard.
Right, so they would still have to get a variance.
So isn't that contrary of what we're
Yeah.
trying to fix?
Yeah, I thought that's what we're trying to fix. So they don't have-
Right, but we haven't been permitting them up in these front yards. They've all been back here.
Right, but I guess my question is on the ones on the left, they're limited now to
Yes,
this.
so this one on the bottom left.
Yeah.
This is the 968 Garden Lane. Correct, she would have still needed a variance. Because they're in line.
For the setback and the size, right?
For the setback and the size, yes, because these need to be determined on a closer basis based on where this person's driveway is. Because when it's a rear yard to front yard situation, that's different than here, where it's a rear yard to rear yard situation. But yes, we are making a call where these 6-foot fences can go, whether it's up to the front or not.
I guess I'm confused on the right-hand side then, if there's no sight line, what kind of fence can they have on their corner side lot, on the right-hand side?
In the green area?
In any area?
In the green area, they could only have a 4-foot fence.
So then
Yeah,
if they wanted to, they'd have to then either have it go up or only have a 4-foot
But
fence?
right before, they couldn't even have a fence back here.
I thought they could, it had to just be 25 feet back. You said they could put a 4-foot fence anywhere. It's the 6-foot fence they couldn't
Right,
have
this
over
is,
there.
right, now this permits the 6-foot fence. In this middle area, you could put, in anywhere, you could put a 4-foot fence anywhere.
I guess, but then the setback area, how far back is that setback area? Are we still limiting the corner lots in this scenario, which is not addressing the issue we had with the variations in the first place? Right? Everyone's
It is because
coming-
we're addressing it right here. Because
But then-
before, they couldn't put a 6-foot fence here, now they can.
But
This is
when-
the main issue
But
we're
what if they
addressing.
wanted to have a side yard, a side lot?
Up
So they
here.
wanted their fence to go across the entire main front yard,
Well, that's her question.
Right,
and you're still limiting that side yard option because,
yes, so that is part of the question. If you want it, where we want to put this line as well.
We're
So
talking
what I had
actual
heard
front yards.
from the public when they were complaining, and I thought, when I heard from you guys, were that you did not want the 6-foot fences up at the front of the house.
I don't recall that being a discussion.
Okay,
No, but I think that's true. I mean,
so,
with this,
I'm not worried about the front, I'm worried about the part that goes down.
yeah, but we're really
no,
only
right,
talking
no,
about the
you're
front
talking about these
yards.
lines right here,
No,
here and here. So that would affect where this is, where this this
The
shading.
front of the house is defined by the driveway. So what she's saying is that, you know, if somebody wanted to totally enclose their yard from the front of the house all the way to their back and sides of their lot line, you would have to move that green line up in the
Up to-
right-hand
right.
corner and down in the
Right, so the
bottom
question
right
is, do
corner.
you want these to start up at the front corner of the house? There's two questions here. The one question that Mallory brought up was not the question in here.
Right.
That was a question that was just part of this diagram, that we specifically put these back to the back of the house. We felt that the front corner should be kept open.
I don't-
And that if you wanted to
Agreed.
put a fence, a 6-foot fence up at the front corner of your house, that needed to be looked at, because you're very close to the corner here, and that is something that is not something that can just go straight to permitting.
Well, I would say you can go up to the front of the house as long as it complies, I think in other places you say as long as it complies with the sightline requirements.
I mean, if that's something that you guys want,
I could see if I owned one of those houses and I wanted to enclose my backyard in a privacy fence, I don't know if I'd want to give away that 100 square feet of property. I might put a fence in and put a little dog run in there or something, whatever.
I guess my thought would be like, they would be able to be like any other non-corner lot where you have the green line, you can put a side yard fence along the entire side at 6 feet.
right, so on the right side of the property, that's the
Yeah.
situation, except we pushed it to the back of the house because of
Right.
the corner.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, so-
didn't think it was appropriate to have the
And
fence
I'm
up.
not talking about like,
No, you're talking about right here.
I'm talking about that side.
Right, so if you move this line up, you cover that. So we didn't think it was appropriate to have a 6-foot fence all the way up here. But if you guys want the fence there, that's fine, then this all becomes dotted, and it allows a 6-foot fence there. This left side is totally different, because you have a rear yard against a side yard. So we have to be careful here with the driveway. Remember, we had the one person come where someone wanted to put their rear yard fence right next to the person's driveway. So you also have vision triangle issues with someone's driveway. So this one, we didn't feel we should allow the fences, we were concerned about here because it just depends where this person's driveway is. So this couldn't be a one-size-fits-all situation on this side.
Aren't you concerned about all of that if you're potentially allowing 4-foot fences to go straight up to the property line, that you're gonna have a lot of issues with driveways? Regardless if it's this corner lot, like the two on the top that are in the middle, if you have their yard, if their own fence goes right up to the edge of their driveway.
Right, and I don't think it's a common thing that people are doing that, but it's more to accommodate the decorative fences.
The problem you're going to have is with the way we define natural fence. If it's bushes and people don't control it, now you got an enforcement problem. A constructed fence is not going to grow. If you put the arborvitaes, if you make your fence out of arborvitaes, they already.
Yeah, but I don't think we can control where people put landscaping on their property.
Well, but I'm wondering if we want to put more restrictions around that natural fence, that has to be, that the natural fence can't go all the way to the property line, because the natural fence can grow.
It's going to go over the sidewalk.
It's going to go over the sidewalk. There's one,
Right, but
I sent in an
Right.
enforcement issue last year
Right,
because this fence was hanging, there was about a 6-inch part of the sidewalk you can walk on because somebody let their fence.
I'm concerned with the natural fence term in general, because most people are just gonna do landscaping, they're not gonna come in for a permit for a natural fence. I mean, if you were gonna do a line of bushes, would you come in and get a fence permit?
I don't know.
No.
I don't
I
know what the
wouldn't, no.
requirements are, but
So that's what
I'm,
I don't think anybody would do that. So I think, we've taken this from another community. I'm just not quite sure how that would work.
well, if we want to define it, I think it's a good idea to allow people to use, the one guy at the last meeting was trying to use hedges, but he couldn't get them to take, and his trees were dying. I think it's a nice notion to have a natural fence, but if we're going to include it, I think we should put more restrictions on that as far as going all the way to the lot line.
Well, so that's why we said don't allow anything up there or restrict it to just split rail or decorative.
Well, yeah, but
That's what I would say.
That's what I'm saying, don't allow natural fences, don't allow board on, solid fences, or you could do it a % opacity, I'm not sure how we would regulate that. But I'm wondering, like, if you say you can allow a natural fence up to this far, then if someone puts a row of arborvitae up and they didn't get a permit, like, we can't, code enforcement isn't gonna be, you can't go out there and be like, oh, you didn't get a fence permit for your arborvitae. So, I'm concerned about the,
Well, but this is the code that says what's allowed. Whether they get a permit or not, you could point to the code and say, you're not allowed to have, you're not allowed to have the natural fence right up to the lot line, and now.
and they're gonna say it's just my landscape.
What?
I'm worried, I don't wanna create an enforcement nightmare for someone putting in landscaping. So, yeah, I understand it's in our draft here, but now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm getting a little nervous about it. So that's what I'm wondering, that's why maybe number 1 is a better option, but you allow some sort of fences in.
But number 1 has natural fence in it, though.
But not in the front
But
yard.
not
In the front yard that's going to interfere with driveways, et cetera.
Oh.
So I would lean towards that one myself.
Well, let me go over the type B fence, and then that's really all I had, and then we can
Let's
discuss.
come
Okay,
back.
so, okay, so this type B fence is only allowed in the middle area, so the A fence is allowed anywhere. This B fence is only allowed in this blue area. And to make it more confusing, there's 2 different scenarios. Type B fence cannot exceed 6 feet in height, and it can only be permitted behind the principal structure as it's currently proposed. So there's 2 different scenarios that noted by this section A and section B. So I pulled them out. So these are the 2 ones I was trying to explain earlier. So when you have let's see. When you have the back corner of a principal structure against the
Backyard of.
back of another structure, that's where we're permitting the 6-foot fence to go all the way up to the property line.
So in the top diagram, you're saying that the corner of the house is closest to the street, so that's the back corner. In the bottom diagram, it looks like that might be like a deck. And you're saying,
No, this is the house. That's not a deck.
oh, that's supposed to be
Yeah.
a pitched roof? Oh, okay.
I know, that,
It does kind of look like a deck.
It's a house.
What?
everything's
It
the
does kinda
house.
look like a deck.
I
Nobody
thought it
has
was a deck.
patios or decks here. So this is the back corner, and that's the back corner closest to the, this road. So you're not taking the back corner over here. So that's this case, but then we can talk about if you wanted to move those lines up to the front corner, so that all of this and all of this can be 6 feet.
I would say.
But again, that takes you very close to the vision triangle.
I would still say that so like on this top one, the one that's the fence that's facing the road has to be 4 feet because it's a front yard fence?
No, that
That's
could
how-
be 6 feet.
No, we're saying that can be 6
That
feet.
can be 6 feet too. Okay, because your other diagram was confusing because it was also blue.
Yeah, that's,
Because it had the blue line right here saying it only.
But you could do you could do the A anywhere.
That was the confusion I had with the
I thought
diagram. because
I
you've
thought
got-
the rule was you could only have, for the front of the structure, this front fence had to be 4 feet. And then the sides and the back essentially could be the 6 feet.
No, there's no limit for the 4 feet. I guess I was showing the reverse of what could only be 4 feet.
To me, it was confusing because you got the two different types abutting each other and the line is.
Right, but the one was
line
showing what
represents
could
the
only be
fence.
4 feet.
I know,
Right, but you said, but it went up to this line, so it made it seem like that could only be 4 feet.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
you're
what-
saying a front fence can be 6 feet? Front yard fence is permitted to be 6 feet.
And Marcy, this is typically the ones we've been dealing with, right? I mean, it's off the back plane of the house
Right,
on the side yard going towards the backyard.
right, because this,
This is the one we want to clean up the most.
right, this front yard here, this is 25 feet back. So this is permitted. We're not changing
Yeah.
anything here. This is the typical 25-foot back. I'm putting my 6-foot fence here. So we're just assuming all the houses are 25 feet back, I guess.
Right.
So this is the only situation that was a problem before. Because you can't put the fence right here. Otherwise, the fence would have to be set back 25 feet. This is the problem we're.
So if we go with this and somebody says, well, I really want to extend my 6-foot fence down to the front plane of my house, they could also get a variation for that. They could go through that process if they so desire.
Correct.
Why do I do that? I mean, I think, why not allow it without a variation? Why not just move that plane up and make the caveat that it has to comply with the sightline requirements? And
Well, we can do that too.
they don't have to come around. I mean, if somebody wanted to enclose that side yard, they can enclose it. If they don't want to enclose it, they could go anywhere in the house, they could draw their dividing line. You know, as long as they comply with the sight line, because there was language in there somewhere else where they said, provided the sight line is preserved, then they would, if they didn't understand what the sight line, they would have to come to the village and get guidance on that.
It'll look terrible.
What?
It'll look terrible.
I don't think it'll look terrible.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
I don't.
And that's what the majority of residents that come here and speak against something, that's what they're talking about. They don't want people putting a 6-foot fence across the front plane of their house on a corner.
And people haven't been coming in asking.
And the majority of our requests, if not all of them, have been the back of the house
Yeah.
sight line, not the front.
Okay.
This is just allowing us, for them to be able to put a 6-foot fence instead of the 4-foot that they had and was allowed.
And they can do this without having to get a variation or anything else, but if they want to push it, then they have to do the variation process.
I'll take a vote on it then. I mean, put it down as something that we should vote on.
Okay, so the other scenario is, this is the one that we just saw on Garden. So this is where, let's see. A type B fence is permitted and shall extend from the back corner of the principal structure and shall not be permitted to extend beyond the plane of the structure fronting the secondary street. Oops. So that's why it's held at this plane. Now, the person who just came through held it at this back plane, but she did bump it out here. So that case where she would be circling here,
Right.
that would still require a variance. And staff felt that
No,
should
not-
still require a variance.
Not if you look at your last sheet. Because we said it could go off the back plane of the house.
No, but this is
Into the
if there's a
corner.
front yard here.
Not if there's a front yard in
Yeah,
between.
the other one is
corner houses.
rear yard to rear
Okay,
yard.
gotcha. Thank you. Depending on where their neighbor's driveway is.
Right, so this is rear yard to.
But do they have to come in for a variance, or can it be something permitting can look at first and say, yeah, you're not gonna be able to do that? Or is that how
Well, we
it
would.
happen?
That's how it happens.
Okay.
They come in for a fence and we say, well, you're too close to the driveway. We
Okay.
deal with that downstairs.
Well, in this case, do you want to make that beyond the plane of the structure? Do you want to make that structures plural? Because you really are bringing the neighbor's house. And what if there was a slight offset? What if the neighbor to the middle neighbor, his house was 5 feet back? So instead of
Right.
25 feet from the street, he was 30 feet. You really would want to then limit the fence on the lower yard to 30 feet, because otherwise he's going to exceed.
No, so so if this house was back here, you're saying?
No, I'm saying the middle house was 5 feet.
Oh, it was back there, so
further
we
back.
thought it would still go corner to corner.
You're saying he'd have to have an angled fence?
That this guy could still get it from the corner of his house. He wouldn't have to bring it in. That he would
It
still
could
So the
go-
get.
driveway would be long enough still to resolve the sightline issue? Is that what you're thinking, right?
Yeah, it would still go from corner of the house to wherever this guy's corner is.
So he'd have to have an angled fence?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think that's.
No, you'd go straight, because you're talking about a fence between the 2 yards too.
Yeah.
So you'd go straight to that fence. You're not lining it up with the neighbor's house.
Well, then why don't you say, but at no point shall be permitted beyond the plane of the structure that is furthest
So-
from the street, so that it defines it. So if the middle house was 5 feet back, the guy on the bottom he has to line up his fence with the middle house. He can't line it
So
up.
now his fence has to start back here?
I thought that's what you just said he would have to, or you said
No, I'm
he would-
saying his still starts at his corner, and then it would end at this guy's corner.
And that's why I
if
said
his
it's an
corner's
angled
moved.
fence, and
Yeah.
everybody's saying, no, we don't want to allow that.
You don't.
No.
You don't want to have to put in an angled fence. You would just go
said
to
no.
the fence
I didn't say
on
no.
your
Well,
rear
why
yard.
don't you just go to your lot line and then their fence would be down here?
Yeah,
the
I mean,
house is
if-
down here, and it would just be a little
Yeah, you could go,
jog down. Because your concern is the sight line, right, with the driveway? You want to make sure it's safe to have a fence.
right,
And assuming that that house is further back, they're still going to have the safety of the sight line of the driveway, because they're going to have all that extra driveway from this guy's side of the house, where his
And
setback
actually,
is.
his fence wouldn't go from house to house corner. His fence would go from his corner to the rear yard line.
right.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's where it would stop.
yeah, right there.
Marcy was confusing me when she kept pointing to the house up at top. So you're right, the fence wouldn't go from house to house
No.
unless the upper house was all the way on the lot line. Well, I took it it's not supposed to be, right? Do we have
Right,
any
they're all
situations
supposed
like
to
that?
be, in general, all houses, the structures have a setback requirement already.
But do we have any old non-complying ones?
I'm sure we do, but that's
Well,
beyond.
that house would be
Yeah,
able to
start.
have the 6-foot fence on both sides because it's not on a corner.
Correct.
Correct.
I know what we're talking about. I'm talking about what the guy on the bottom is putting in.
Yeah.
Right,
The middle house is somewhat controlling what the guy on the bottom can do.
It shouldn't.
no, I think everybody is tied to the plane of their house.
Yep.
All right.
Right, I was saying if they wanted to have one straight fence, then it would just be cockeyed, but yeah, if each person's putting in their fence, then it would just be offset.
Yeah, you can only base it on on the petitioner's front plane, because you get into cul-de-sacs and things like that, that you're gonna have curved fences pretty soon.
Well, right, that's why we have in here that the fences are permitted to follow the curve or the angle of the street, because I mean, fences do end up on angles and curves.
Okay, so,
So those were there's one scenario for A fences, because those can go anywhere, and there's 2 scenarios for the B fences. And then there's these 2 new definitions, one for decorative fence and one for natural fence.
okay, well, like you, I'm a little concerned about the definition natural fence, because natural fences grow, and we don't seem to control that very well.
I think that's only in, oops, sorry, in this, only comes up here.
Well, I thought a type B could be a natural fence too. Type B is also a natural fence,
Oh, it is.
yes. Type B says decorative, natural, or solid.
Oh, yeah. So.
I don't see how we can control landscaping.
I don't know either.
No, and
I,
if somebody
I
puts
agree.
in 4-foot hedges.
I mean, we don't
6-foot hedges,
now, so,
Right.
and we don't control it.
right.
And we don't control the fact that they're gonna start growing over the sidewalk. So I don't know how we can deal with that.
so that's just something that staff proposed, that now this staff
I think we
isn't
should
liking.
just say, go with the decorative fences and
We can just strike natural fence
landscaping
from.
stuff out
Yeah.
of
But
it.
we still need to allow wood, don't we?
Well,
Natural
that
includes
can be,
landscaping and wood,
yeah, well, that can be decorative though.
but not, if it's,
I mean, split,
decorative has to be
split
open.
rail, it could be decorative.
Right, but it
Right, decorative was only open.
is only open. So that removes the ability to have a 4-foot.
Well, I think the
Cedar
first
fence.
thing is, do you want to allow solid wood fences in the front yards? That's the first question, and then you can figure out what definition you want to put in there.
People have solid wood fences already in the front yard.
Yes, it's currently permitted.
I would say yes, allow it.
So maybe you want to take a poll on that.
Okay, now,
Yes.
But we've been passing a lot of questions that we should, stop, say, okay, we have a question, let's
That's what we're
frame the
trying to do.
question, let's vote on it. Let's frame the question, let's vote on it.
okay, so the first question you need answered, Marcy, is what?
Should we permit solid wood fences, 4-foot solid wood fences in the front yards?
Is that past the front of the house?
Past the front of the house?
No,
Yes.
wait, I thought that's a second question. That's second question.
No, I asked her
First,
for
we need
the,
to know about solid wood fences, then if you want them allowed past the fence or up to the edges, that's your A or B. And it'd be 4 or 6-foot fences because the definition of natural is allowed for both B and A fences.
Ah, you lost me there.
Okay, so we're talking about the definition of natural, right?
No,
no,
Oh, okay,
we just want to know
okay.
if you want to have a 4-foot solid fence beyond the front of the principal structure.
It's not.
Commissioner Heiken,
No.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Yednek,
Yes,
Commissioner Riles,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague.
No.
And I say no.
you're 3-3.
Oh. So that's a no. Is it a no?
I mean, we're talking about the 4-foot fences.
Yes, in the front yard, solid.
Solid, so that,
Yes.
So,
do we want to ask the question on decorative fences then? Is that going to be different?
Sure, let's do it
Well,
for,
because yours has both of the different types, so.
right. So for decorative, I guess I just assumed
okay,
that.
so, same question, 4-foot high, decorative, which could be split rail, picket, I guess, more of an open type fence,
Well,
correct?
did we completely restrict chain link, or is chain link always still allowed?
Chain link is not allowed in the front yard, I believe. Is that true, Marcy?
That's per the new
The new
requirement,
code,
yeah.
right.
But it's allowed every place else?
What?
But it is allowed every place else?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so, question 2. Decorative fences in the front yard, 4 feet or less of a more open type. Commissioner Heiken,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick,
Yes.
Commissioner Riles,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague.
Decorative, non-solid.
Yes,
Yes.
and I'm a yes on that too.
Okay. That's what I-
But just to clarify,
Yes,
chain links are not allowed under the current definition
Correct.
anywhere on a residential property.
in the front yard.
No, on the side yards too, because in type B fences and it's included for type 4 and type, it just says,
What did we put?
it only refers to decorative fences, which includes which in the definition says not chain link.
Chain link fences shall be prohibited to extend beyond the principal structure.
Well, you gotta go to
Except in the
your proposed new
industrial
definition.
But then we have to change the definition of decorative.
Because decorative,
You just said chain link fences are not allowed in front of,
Mallory, are you talking about the proposed new definitions?
Yes,
Yeah, the proposed new definitions takes chain link out, period.
right, for the definition of decorative. So the regulations say chain link fences shall be prohibited to extend beyond the front of the principal structure except in industrial zones. So I know what you're saying is, yes, not allowed in the front yard but other places. But then if you go down to specific fence requirements.
right, I don't think that was
residential,
intentional, so.
It would not be, chain link would not be allowed in residential. It would still be allowed in commercial.
Right, I don't think that was intentional, so something should have been written into type A or B fence, in type A or B that would allow chain link, so that's something that we have to consider.
Okay.
and that would be allowed in the rear yard. And
Right, I think the intent was
Some-
just to not allow chain link in the front,
right,
but I think that the decorative and natural kind of threw it off.
okay.
Okay.
So that
Well, then just,
requires a little rewrite there.
Is it just me, or I'm thinking we're not gonna get a final vote on this tonight? Because there's a lot of stuff needs.
Guaranteed at this
worded.
point.
What?
Guaranteed, we're not gonna hit a final at
Okay,
this point.
all right, good, all right. So the chain link fence needs to be clarified.
yes.
We're just leaving it at that.
I guess let's just get a general consensus that everyone is okay with chain link being in residential, I guess on the side and back lot lines,
But not the new side front.
but not the new side front. So it wouldn't be essentially anything that abuts a road?
That's a good way to put it.
Right,
Any road-facing fences are not allowed to be chain link.
okay, what do you need next, Marcy?
I thought we were gonna take a,
Oh,
Oh, I just wanted to make sure no one objected to that in general.
oh, okay.
I didn't know if we need to go through on a yes or no. I thought everyone was on the same page, but wanted to make sure.
I have
I
a
mean-
question regarding the road-facing terminology. So if someone's got a side yard that's got a chain link fence that's facing a road,
The corner
that-
lots,
that's
right?
also not allowed.
Well, that's what kind of what we're clarifying is the corner lots. Can they not have a chain link fence on their side lot?
There's a ton of them in the village.
yeah, I think we just have to say no to the front yards.
But that's treated as a front yard. That's defined as a front yard still.
Well,
right?
that's what we're trying to work around,
Right,
is
I know,
not
so-
treating it like a front yard, treating it as a corner, what do you call it, corner
Corner
side
side.
yard.
But then you would still, on this west one, they could still, can they put a chain link fence in front?
They cannot, but the other,
in
but the,
front?
On the west side here.
And not in front of the front plane of the house, no.
Yeah, that's what the question is. So if this diagram, Director Clicker wanted to propose this. If it's something that you guys don't like at all, we can scrap it and come back with something else. It's totally fine. It's just something that worked in another community. If it's not going to work for us.
I think that, are you saying scrap the diagram?
I mean, scrap the whole thing with like the A and B, we could come up with something different. It seems like there's just a lot of confusion and it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken us a while to figure it out. I mean, I was, like I was trying to explain to you, I was confused by the diagram because the boundary lines are in between two different types. And I understand what you were saying about how you walk back the boundary line. You walk back the boundary line in the allowable area, or you walk forward the boundary line. But for somebody reading this, a layperson, it would be complicated.
Right, that's why I'm just wondering if it's worth
But the diagram
trying to
itself,
modify
the
this or
diagram
not.
itself is helpful if we can figure out a way to make it clear. I think it's helpful so that people will be able to see it, and you've covered.
I think the planes will be helpful in the diagram. I think we just have to firm up what is allowed and which ones.
Question as well, if is regarding the chain link fences, would they, I mean, there's some people that have these chain link fences that do face the road and some may even face the front or the front yard. Would they be grandfathered in and still allowed to keep their fences how they are?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone who has an existing fence can keep their existing
And
fence.
you
and
can
repurpose
replace it like for like.
They can replace it like for like, so they can replace it. Say their chain link fence, I don't know, gets cut, and they need to replace it. They can replace it with another chain link fence. But if
Okay.
someone's doesn't have a fence in their yard and they're putting up a new fence, this is what we're determining for, chain link fences is, I guess, right now how the code is written.
Or if they're moving the boundary of the chain link fence, for example.
So this is what we added. It says, this is on page 2, number, what's currently 9,
Are you looking at the
one with
document with changes?
Yes.
Okay.
with changes. So it's, the first word is review, and then I'm skipping the first sentence. It says, like for like replacement of an existing accessory structure, including fences and screening, may be exempt from said review as determined by the zoning administrator. Actually, that's referring to except in single family. So would that, Mallory, does that totally mean the whole paragraph is for except in single family?
No, but we can make it clearer. Let's make that clearer.
Yeah, because that leads me to.
Like for like replacement of existing accessory structures in all zoning districts. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's not,
Or maybe it should be its own line.
yeah, maybe that might be even easier.
So did
then
everyone agree we don't want chain link fences in the front?
Correct.
At all in the front, not just exceeding past the plane, but not at all in the front.
Is that a question we're voting on?
I think we should take a poll on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Extending past the front.
do we want
plane
to
of-
allow up to 4-foot chain link fence in front of the front plane of?
No. I think we're just deciding right now in the front yard at all, 4 or 6
That's in
foot.
front of the front plane of the house.
No, but even if it was in line with the front plane, if it faced the front of the house, right? Like, are we going to allow a chain link material fence to have someone in their front yard? Whether not exceeding past the house, but like, in line with the property, in line with the structure.
To me, the front yard, the primary front yard is
I see what you're saying.
outside
Well,
the
because
front
before
plane
we
of
were
the
talking
house.
about being able to do these decorative 4-foot fences, like up to the property line versus up to the structure.
Right now, you could put a 4-foot chain link fence anywhere.
I think the question is, do we want to allow chain link fence in the front plane of the house, period? Whether it's 4 foot, 6 foot, whether it,
Right.
whatever, that's just period, chain link fence.
Yeah.
But
That's
our
the question.
question is past the front plane of the house. I think
Past
that's
the
how we
front
initially
plane.
proposed
Right,
it.
but my
Exactly.
question
It could
was,
be-
do we want to allow them at all in the front yard?
Yeah, I think I would vote to say no chain link fence in the front plane of the house, even if
I
it's
see.
4 foot or even if it's 6 foot.
So
I
the
think we wanna
question is,
present- We want to present a nice look in the front of the house.
so do we want to permit a chain link fence in the front plane of the house? So that would be either right at the front plane or forward.
Or forward, right. Anything outside the front plane of the house. Mallory seems to have.
No, because when you say anything outside the front plane of the house, I guess my reading is, I would say not at all in the,
That's what we're saying.
yeah.
We're saying the same thing.
We are, but we're using different words, and
But-
words mean a big deal in the code.
The only thing
you're
that
trying
makes
to be
it
all
weird,
legal
the only
on
thing
it.
that makes it weird and why I would like to do, I like Mallory's suggestion of street facing is when you have this diagram on the left, the house in the middle couldn't have a chain, if we vote yes, that we want to prohibit chain link fences, the house in the middle could have a chain link fence, but the two on either side of them could have that chain link fence in that new front side yard, which is kind of weird. I like the concept of no chain link fences and street facing views at all. That way we're consistent. All the public viewing we're doing, we're trying to create decorative fences or, wood fences or whatever, composite.
I totally agree with that. So what about if you're coming down this street and you can see it along this rear yard? If you're seeing it on the on the line, is that permitted or not?
I think that would be okay because
That
it
one's okay?
arguably would be a solid fence.
Oh, then you
or
wouldn't see
decorative
it.
fence, yeah.
So I like that,
Road facing.
yeah, should we
Road
permit road-facing chain link fences?
Are not permitted.
Or not permit?
Not crazy about the road-facing terminology.
Well, we can.
Well,
clean
we
it
don't
up.
know if that'll be the terminology.
Yeah. well,
Parallel to the road or?
Because if they've already got a chain link fence, say, on the back plane of their house, and, I mean, obviously, they can still replace it, but, people have gates and everything back there. It's facing the street, but it's like 80 feet away from the street.
Well, but they can do like replacement. All we're trying to do is for the future.
I think we're just talking about this corner side yards is the language we're talking about.
No, you would do that whole boundary. For example, that middle guy that's got this big giant lot, we're saying that his fence that's below his house,
Oh,
that would be road facing too. Would not, we were saying chain link wouldn't be allowed there. I like the concept of the road facing or however we want to define it so it's clear, but, and again, it's future. And
I
it's,
prefer just front yard,
Yeah,
front plane. It's more definitive.
every house in the neighborhood has front-facing or street-facing fences. Every one of them.
Yep. I think just
well, then take the vote.
prohibiting chain link.
Then take the vote.
front
But
of
then
the
you're
front
gonna get these people on the side here, then this guy could put a chain link fence on the side and it'll be next to this guy's house.
You can't go,
You could put a chain link fence here,
Right.
although that's, right.
That's facing the
Although it's
road,
still,
though.
right, but if we don't do front facing, I guess that's still considered a front yard.
That's what I was saying before.
Yeah,
We're not
it's
changing
still
the
front yard.
definition of front yard.
But if we say the front plane of the house, we would still have to say it can't be in the front yard.
yeah, that's true.
But isn't that allowed now? He could have a 4-foot chain link fence there now.
Yes.
Yes.
We're talking about
We're talking about
restricting
changing.
chain link fences going forward. That's what we're talking about. We're trying to get rid of chain link fences, which I'm all in favor of.
Well, 90% of the houses in town have chain link.
But, exactly, but we're talking about going forward, and they can replace like for like. They can, if their chain link fence has fallen down and they want to replace a chain link fence on the same line as their old one, they can do that. We're not talking about telling people to go back and rebuild their yards. We're just saying, going forward, if you want to put in a fence, this is what we want in the future.
I guess that came up because a lot of times, like the person on 968, where we just had, came in with a proposed chain link fence, and that was not,
And we talked them out of it.
But that was 6 foot though, too, which we didn't want at all.
Well, even the 4 foot, what about, what's a 6 foot chain link fence or 4 foot chain link fence? They both look tacky.
right. I guess that's,
But regardless, we talked them out of chain link, and that's what our goal is.
I guess we should find out what the majority feel about chain link.
right.
Right, so I just need to understand it as well. You're basically saying the chain link fences moving forward, we want to eliminate.
From the front yard.
From the front
yard.
yards, from the
Right.
front view.
From the
Right.
public facing view. We're saying just front yard, or some of us are saying front yard and this new front side yard, which would be the public facing view, and I'm sorry, I interrupted your question.
No, I just want to make sure that that's clear, based on, what we're discussing and based on the homeowner. We're kind of eliminating an option for them as far as what they want to do with their property.
We're only limiting new homeowners. Anybody wants to do something new. Right?
Right,
Correct.
Yeah, we're not taking away from anyone that's already got one
right.
or wants to replace one with a new one.
But,
Would-
I mean,
would
to
it-
the extent removing chain link fence is removing an option of
Right.
homeowners.
Yeah, I mean, regardless
The
if
front.
you're current, or you're new, you're eliminating an option for them as far as what they want to do with their property, right?
Yes.
Do that in code all over the place. We don't allow carte blanche rights on your property. I mean, when we talked about the chicken thing, you can't build, we have restrictions in general.
Yeah, that's extraordinary, though. That's not a norm, right? Fencing is technically a norm, right? Regardless of whatever type of fence I want to put up, whether it's chain link, whether it's wood, whether it's decorative, or whatever the case may be, as a homeowner thinking in their position, I think I should have that option to determine, what type of fence I can put up. And I understand cosmetically looking forward, you want it to, look presentable. But again, I think that's eliminating an option for someone who might be inclined to favor chain link fences, is the way that I see it.
I propose that the questions are kind of clear and we just take it to a vote. First question would be, do we want to discourage chain link fences on facing views in general? And then the next one would be define if we say yes or no, then define what we would call the facing views and then leave it at that. I think some of us are opposed chain link fences, some of us want to allow them, and we could go up and back arguing all night without just putting a stake in the ground.
Okay, Mallory, to make it clear, how best to term this question?
I think let's just start at a basic question of allowing chain link fences. Let's start just with the front yard of a property and kind of see where we fall there, and then we can discuss if we do want to expand it to corner side yards or road facing. But let's see where we land first on the chain link fence front yard.
Okay, so do
Concept.
we want to permit chain link fences in the generic front yard? Commissioner Hyken.
No.
Commissioner Berkey, sorry,
No.
I forgot who I'm got down here. Commissioner Yednick.
No,
Commissioner Riles,
I say yes.
Commissioner Sprague,
I'm a yes to 4 foot, but not 6 foot.
in the front yard.
Yes.
That's not the option.
And I'm going to say no. So,
Okay.
Then I think the question is, do public thoroughfare facing planes, should they be treated equally as the front plane of the house, of the structure?
so you're saying that if there's a chain link across the back plane of their house going to the next door neighbor's fence?
Like back here.
No,
This guy.
they can have it, I'm saying, I think we all know what we mean when we say street facing. We can figure out a way to define that better, but I think Mallory brought up the good point. Do we want to just include all street facing in the same class as front plane facing? That's the question. So some people would say yes to chain link fence on the side, you know, the new side front yard as we're defining it.
Yeah, so essentially the inner edge of all the blue in this image,
Except
plus
this.
yeah, including this one where Marcy is.
But there's no plane here. I mean, there's no building there, I
Right.
thought.
No,
Right.
but we're saying the street facing
But it
view.
would still be
Oh,
a
okay.
fence.
Okay.
We're asking whether these street.
If he doesn't have anything planted in that backyard, he can't put a chain link fence anywhere because you can see all the way through to the other street. It's still street facing.
No, we're talking about like I said, I think we could define that better. It's not.
Well, exactly.
It's not street facing. We know it's a street adjacent then, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, we know that.
Would we want to say street running parallel to the street?
No, what Commissioner or Chairman Johnson is saying is it's parallel to the street all the way at the top of the picture, which I think we understand which street we're talking about.
So what we're saying is this guy in the center would not be able to have a chain link fence in the two blue areas.
Right.
Right.
It'd have to be wood or decorative or.
So why don't we just say,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The property line that's adjacent to a public street or something like that. You probably want to define between public and private because, well, do we have any alleys in?
Well, we could actually say, add, if it's like from the front plane to the right of way or the front yard. Because this guy has a front yard setback of 25 feet.
Okay, so this is also considered a front yard? Because it.
Because everybody has a 25-foot front yard setback.
So he has two front yards as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's
Okay,
got a
so
street back there.
okay, so do we want to allow it to all front yards? So the corner people have two front yards and this guy in the center has two front yards?
But you would want to say from the front plane, because like here, this guy's house is further away than 25 feet. So you would want to, that's why you want to
But
capture
I'm just
the
talking
front
about
plane.
materials right now.
Yeah, we're talking
not
materials now. We're not
setback.
talking location. We're talking
I
material.
know, but if you're talking about the plane, that's why I'm saying plane
That's true.
versus
That's-
setback.
I was
Yeah.
saying yard, that's why I was saying yard.
Right, but if you say yard, like this, front yard, you'll cut it off here.
I'm not talking, I'm saying, but I'm just talking about materials,
Yes.
not setback requirements.
We're voting on chain link only. We're not voting on the location or the line or which one is.
Well,
No,
we were talking
you
about-
are. You're talking
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
street facing
Right.
lines, that's location.
But I don't know. Okay, then I don't know what.
Like what if this guy's house was back here? You still wouldn't want it in the front.
We don't want it, what Commissioner
I mean, if this
Yednick's
was
saying is
too-
he doesn't want it in either spot.
Right, I'm saying if there was another house here, just say
Oh.
it was set back further, you know.
Well, that's a whole nother house. He's got,
Yeah.
then now you've taken away the front, the house on top no longer only has one front plane, doesn't have two. He doesn't have two front yards anymore because there's another house in between. Now you put in a whole new lot. I don't know why this is so difficult to understand, why we keep confusing the
Yeah, if we
questions.
just disallow chain link in the front yard, I think we're fine.
Okay, but the definition of a front yard is 25 feet from the right-of-way for this zoning district. So that's what I'm saying. So then this person will be able to put a chain link fence right here.
But-
Because that's outside of the front yard.
No, because we're not allowing, okay.
The front yard is different than the front plane of the house.
Right, but if we don't allow chain link fences in the front yard or the front plane, then it's.
That's what I'm saying, yes, that's what we have to say. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay, then,
because that's why I was saying material, so we can put it as prohibited in everything.
I don't
But I
know what
want-
you mean by material.
Yeah, I don't know either.
The
What?
type of fence.
what was the comment? What was Marcy's comment?
Okay, I guess I was confused. So you're saying for both plane and yard
Yes,
to cover the sides
yes.
and the back? Okay. But then the question is, do people want it to cover all of the front planes and front yards?
I thought we
Marcy, I
covered
think
that
you're getting too deep in the
We did.
weeds on,
Okay.
on trying to define this stuff. I think what you want from the commission is the guidance, and then unfortunately for you, you gotta go back and figure out how to word that guidance so that it's clear. I mean, what I'm saying is all of the facing stuff, so like Mallory pointed out, everything, all these blue faces, except for all the way on the right, that street side face, I'm proposing that we don't allow chain link fencing.
I completely understand what you're saying, but I don't think that's what all the commissioners feel.
Well, then, that's why I said then take a vote. We already voted,
Well,
That's
we
what
already
I'm
voted
I'd love to.
the front facing.
I'm waiting.
I'd love to, but I need a good definition of what we're voting on.
Street facing chain link fences, period. And then we gotta,
We already disallowed it in the front yard.
and the front plane.
And the front
And the front
plane.
plane, because Marcy's not pointing to this one
Okay,
house that's.
so now we're saying if somebody's got a fence way at the back end of their house, but you can see it from the street,
No, not see it from the street. If we're using this
If the
example of the
lot-
middle. You can see anything from the street. If I stood up on a ladder.
exactly, so that's why I'm having trouble.
It's the border of the property that's closest to a street. So the middle guy has two borders that are close to a street. The guys, all the
Which is
guys
the-
in the corner
which is the
have
front
two
yard.
borders that are close.
That's the front yard, the closest to the street, correct?
No, but the middle guy's got two, it's not his.
Yeah.
Yes,
front.
he has two front yards, and the people in the corners have two front yards. So I guess the question, that's the terminology in the code right now. Front-facing lot line, property lines are front yards, no matter if
Anywhere
they're
that's
in the
blue.
front or the back of the property. If it's on, if it abuts the roadway, that's the front yard. So we're all saying the same thing. So front yards, all the front yards, not just your typical front yard. So if you have two front yards, you can't have a chain link fence in either front yard. Just want to confirm that question, Chairman Johnson.
And that's what I thought we confirmed with the last poll, is front yard, front plane.
I was
But-
just generally.
But I thought Chairman Johnson, you and Chairman Sprague were against the middle guy if the very bottom lot line, I thought you were in favor of allowing a chain link fence in that.
I
line.
said nothing of that nature. I just was questioning, because we were talking about street-facing chain link fences. I was saying that guy couldn't have any, because he's facing the street both ends, and if he's got nothing in between,
He could have
street
a
at the
chain
bottom
link
and his
fence.
house at the top, then he can't have chain link anywhere.
He could have a
Two
chain
side
link in between on the side of his lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he could run it down the side.
Yeah.
Or did everyone think the same as Chairman Johnson, though, on the first poll? That it covered all the front yards, including corner side yards and,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, then we don't need to do any more polling on that. Marcy, do you and I know what everyone's in favor? Okay.
Okay, were there any other pending questions, Marcy?
Yes, we have one, we had one more poll, which is for the side lots, the ones that are on the side, that have the corner side yards. Are we doing front plane or back plane? For 6-foot fences.
Okay. Do we want to limit on these corner properties that have come before us many times, asking for, I think they've asked for 4-foot and 6-foot, but any fences, do we allow them to go off the back plane of their house or the front plane? Is that termed properly?
Yes, front and back. That would want, Marcy, do you want to show the two locations, just so? Okay, so,
This is if we want them to come off the front plane of the house or the back plane.
and this is for 6-foot fences.
For 6-foot fences, so they can have their 6-foot fences here or extend them to the front of the house.
And there's still something in code regarding sightlines.
Yes.
Okay. So, that's the question. We'll start this end. Commissioner Riles, back plane, front plane,
I say front plane, yes.
okay. Commissioner Sprague?
Back plane.
Commissioner Heiken?
Back plane.
Commissioner Berkey?
Back plane.
Commissioner Yednick?
Front.
And I'm going with back, so.
Okay. Those were the ones I had as polls. Marcy, did you have anything else?
No, I think
Clear as mud, Marcy?
Yep. Yep.
Did we clarify the barbed wire question?
Oh, do we,
Oh, we did not, I don't know. if we-
And I have a whole list of things that I wanted to talk about, but
Okay.
well,
I don't.
go ahead.
No, I was waiting for the general things, and I didn't know if you were going to go from commissioner to commissioner.
I
Yeah, we
could,
should do it.
but I don't know that's, what,
I
Mark?
think the last general one we brought up in the group was the barbed wire. I didn't know if we clarified that.
No, let's start with you, Commissioner Yednick. You
Yeah. I
probably
mean,
have the
I can
most.
take everyone's comments back to staff and we can discuss.
So go ahead.
Let's see, besides I put barbed wire in, but I'm looking at the change documents, and I think in bullet 3, I think it's confusing where you say the number limited, there shall be no more than one accessory structure per lot, because I think in the definitions and earlier, you've now defined a structure as a fence, a structure as a storage building, a structure is a chicken coop. So if you say there's only one structure per lot, then that means they have to make a decision between a fence and a storage bin, or the fence or a storage bin and a chicken coop. Because we grouped everything under structure, you can't limit it to one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, my other one was A6, storage shed. Oh, yeah, we're limiting any structure no closer than 10 feet, but I think a lot of people put storage sheds 2 or 3 feet away from their building.
I think that's fire code.
What?
I think this
Yep.
might be part of the fire code as well.
But what about those, the molded plastic storage sheds that you can buy at Home Depot? People tend to put them up anywhere. You might put that, I think what you end up doing is then the only thing you're allowing people to do if they want to put up one of those storage sheds or buy one of those molded plastic ones from Home Depot is either has to be all the way to the back of their lot line or right in the middle of their yard, which nobody wants to put one of those in the middle of their yard. I think a lot of people will locate those right next to the house, maybe a couple of feet from the house.
Okay.
And so I think that needs to be.
Yeah, I believe it's a fire code issue, and A lot of people put them up incorrectly.
Okay, well, then that would have to be clarified. I didn't think about that when I was looking at. And then I was questioning why we struck a 3, 7, 9, 10, and 11. So on that first page, donation boxes were.
It got moved.
What?
It got moved to the, on page 6, it's accessory structures and uses. I believe that's where they are.
So is that the same as number 7, where we're saying they were not exceed 30%? And 9 is temporary building during construction, 10 is accessory use industrial districts, and 11 was temporary storage. All that's covered someplace else?
Yes, it's all
Okay.
covered on page 6.
Okay,
Under
all right.
accessory structures,
Okay.
structures and uses.
And then 810 was a new one where you're saying no event shall any accessory structure be used for residential or dwelling purposes. I was going to bring this up in general. I've been seeing a lot of articles where other communities are starting to allow like mini houses. I don't think we have a demand for it here, but I know in California, they started allowing it. I saw something, maybe it was, I think it was an art magazine recently where
Allowing
people are
what?
building, like, so that people can age in place. One of the articles was talking about there was an older couple, they wanted to stay in their house. They were able to build like a little mini residential building for the daughter so that she could be there and help them and take care of them and was working. I don't think we want to.
It's currently not
Use
permitted.
that now, what?
Yeah, that's currently not permitted.
I know it's not permitted. I'm
But we want to
just
see
saying, I'm
if it
just
is.
proposing that we keep an open mind about something like that going forward. I mean, a lot of our lots may be too small, or, we'd have to figure out what kind of wrapping we want to put around it, but I just wanted to think about keeping an open mind because I do see that's a trend in other states, other areas, especially California, because housing is so expensive and limited. They're starting to allow that kind of thing. I don't think we have to change it for now. I was just putting my thought out there.
You're thinking like an in-law suite? in a
What's
way.
that?
Like an in-law suite?
Yeah.
Or reverse
yeah,
in-law suite?
They're doing stuff like that. Kids can't, I know I remember reading that if kids want to stay in Hawaii, they can't afford it. They got to move back in with their parents, so because it's so expensive to live in Hawaii. Okay, this question, I think we beat that one to death. Changes to B7, I'm saying no longer provide for screening unless near residential. Okay, so B7. Screening, specific fence requirements. Any non-resident adjoining property is located in residential, so we effectively screen year-round. What was my comment or my thought? No longer provide for screening unless near residential. Oh, I know, I think it says that, something just changed. I just lost my document. I gotta go back and open my document again. Sorry, yeah, so I think that language talked about E7, where was it? Unless it borders residential, I think that's what I was thinking. Unless it borders residential, and why wouldn't we allow zoning if it was even, or why wouldn't we allow screening if it was even industrial to industrial, or industrial to street? What I'm saying?
I'm not following what you're saying.
Okay, screening, daycare centers, offense, in non-residential use adjoins property used for residential purposes located in residential. Oh, yeah, okay, it was 7B, any non-residential land use that adjoins any property used for residential purposes shall be effectively screened year-round by a wall fence. What if it was just screened from industrial to industrial? Why are we only saying when there's a border between non-residential and residential? That's what
protect the residential against like a commercial or an industrial or a business use.
I know that's what we're doing, but I'm saying, why are we limiting it only to non-residential to residential border? Why couldn't it even be non-residential to non-residential?
I think
Well,
we
it
don't want to
can be.
require everyone to have a fence.
No, screening, it was screening.
Or we don't want to require
Right, you don't,
everyone.
that's, in the industrial district, you don't have to screen your property, only if you're against residential.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, you got the, okay, then what was my other one? Okay. I said type B fence wording doesn't seem to include between yards. I don't know, I think we kind of beat that to death, and you're going to go back and look at that. The other thing that I think you had, 2D bullet point 2, you said in that one you had plant instead of plain.
Yeah, I got that.
But then also, plain was complicated to me. We've talked about it a lot, and I'm wondering if a layperson, if we could word it better, instead of saying plain, we could use words like wall, edge, border, something that, I don't know if there's, the front wall of the house, the front edge of the house. Maybe, I don't know. That's my thought. I just thought plain was a diagram we already talked about. We struck out C6A. It says, I know, C6A says except retail areas for smoking shelters. Why wouldn't we allow smoking shelters in a retail area if they were appropriate? What if we had a shopping center and they wanted to put up a smoking shelter for their employees to go use during their breaks or something along those lines? Because I think it specifically says except retail areas that we don't require, or there.
Where are you?
It was, let me go back to my bullet. It was bullet C, small c, 6, large a. So it would be
Says they are
page,
permitted in industrial, commercial, and mixed-use districts.
it's page 6. So smoking shelters are permitted only in industrial, commercial, and mixed-use districts. Shelter shall not be permitted as accessory to non-residential or non-retail.
No, shall only be.
Shall only be permitted.
Okay, so commercial shelters shall only be permitted as accessory to non-residential.
I guess it's the non-retail question. If we're saying shall only be permitted as accessory use if it's obviously not residential, which makes sense.
I mean, yeah, people aren't going to put a smoking shelter in their backyard.
Also, if it's
More
not
than likely.
retail,
Well, retail, I think, is different than, a little
Like
different than
other commercial?
commercial.
like a restaurant or something where
Yeah.
people are lingering. Okay.
I guess my thought was we should allow smoking shelters wherever they're appropriate. And however we want to word that so
Okay.
that it's allowed. That maybe if there was for example, like let's say the West End in one of those outlots, if somebody wanted to put a smoking shelter to let their employees go take breaks, couldn't we allow it?
Okay.
And then on smoking shelters, I think you also struck out on the very final paragraph, that G, interior furnishings shall be limited to seating and ashtray or disposal devices. Okay, never mind, I misread that one. I thought we were not allowing ashtrays. We took ashtrays out. No, you're allowing those. And then C6-9, this was struck, and I was suggesting it. Food, alcoholic beverages, and entertainment shall be prohibited. I'm assuming that was in smoking structures, right?
Yes.
Why wouldn't we still have that restriction?
What was that?
Well, we stayed so late.
Time's up.
We gotta move, yeah,
Time's up. Put another quarter in, take a collection.
Oh,
Okay.
they're trying to shut me up, I guess.
Yeah, you're only allowed 2 never minds, just so you know.
Oh, no, food, alcoholic beverages, I guess
I think the old language was saying that you couldn't have entertainment and food and alcoholic beverages inside the smoking shelter, so why did we take that away? I would like to bring that back. We don't want to encourage the smoking shelter to become an offshoot of the bar where people are going to sit out there with their drinks and their beverages and have speakers in the smoking shelter.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Or does the rest of the commission agree or disagree? I don't know.
I've never seen a singer in a smoking shelter before.
No, but
with
they
that.
might
That's 'cause
pipe the
they're
music
currently
out there,
prohibited.
or they might set up tables so that they could have food.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why we struck that out. It was in the old language. I think it should remain. That was the only thing I was
I'm
suggesting.
sure we struck it because it seemed like an unlikely scenario where it would happen.
Yeah.
Because you can't bring the alcohol outside the bar anyways, so I'm assuming that's probably why it got
Yes.
struck. It just seemed like, oh, this
It
doesn't
seemed
seem
very
necessary
unlikely.
because this doesn't ever happen.
Right.
The food
But
is a
then let's ensure it
potential
never
issue.
Yeah.
happens by leaving it in. I mean, if we think that somebody somewhere, you're a lawyer, every rule is written for some moron that did something that they shouldn't have done. All the warning labels, like, do not ride this child's push car on the freeway. Somebody somewhere did that. The definitions under accessory structure, I guess when I was looking at the definitions, where it said that they had to be smaller in floor area, building bulk, and lot coverage than any principal building on the lot. I was wondering, what about some of these lots that we have currently that have like large pole barns? And I was thinking specifically of like the ones on Schoenbeck across from the library. Those are big lots. If you look at some of the pole barns or the storage facilities that people have in those lots, the footprint might be bigger than the house, or I could see them not exceeding the height, but shouldn't we allow the footprint depending on the location?
That's not something that we.
What's
would-
that?
That's just not something that we would like to see. And that's, I don't know if those properties were annexed in, they were in the county before, but that's just not something that we've permitted or that staff would want to see permitted. We don't want large pole barns that are bigger than the principal structure in the village.
Okay, but
That was definitely, that area is more than likely annexed in, so those are legal non-conforming structures.
okay. But we do have, okay, so we still do have some residential lots that are pretty big. So we're even saying that those people, this gets back to Commissioner Ryle's point about restricting people's use of their property. I don't.
Yeah, they could
if I
come in
had
for a variance.
If I had a half-acre lot, I might want to have get permitted to build a big enough garage that I might put my, my mini RV in and, a couple of cars if I could afford it, whatever. So we're restricting that.
Correct.
Maybe that's something we'd want to poll. And donation boxes, I was very confused by that. Originally, I was thinking it was like a cash box at the church, but now I'm talking about like the donation box that ANVATS has in the back of their thing to collect materials, and I was confused by donation boxes. So what are we talking about when we talk about donation boxes?
So it's basically, it has to be, this was more a donation box, like a clothing donation box. They can't just be plopped down in somebody else's property. It can only be a donation box for that property. So if there's a church and maybe they want to collect clothing, they can get a approval with a minor site plan and appearance approval to collect clothing. But someone just can't come and bring a donation box and put it on property that they don't own.
Does that mean no one can do the little free libraries in town? Have you seen those?
Aren't those normally done on like residential?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Or they're converted old like newspaper drop-offs. But even if it's on residential,
Yeah.
it's all zoning districts.
yeah, I don't know, we'll have to.
I don't know if that's something that is in Wheeling. They're all over Chicago, and I've seen them in other suburban towns. where people just, it's like a little free, like they
I
just.
think there
put
is
it-
one on Schoenbeck somewhere.
And they might be in some of the, like,
Right.
neighborhoods, like the subdivisions, where you can walk around and stuff. So that would just be,
Okay.
now that you're mentioning it, I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about, the big ones that are like, you put in
Yeah.
like clothing and stuff, I get those. I was just thinking the little ones. I'm sure I can pull you up.
And they do get plopped down anywhere.
Yes, yeah, people just have to like apply in the website and they'll send it to you, and it's on a pole, and it's a little tree house sometimes, or something a little bigger, but
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
the
saying-
problem is it can't be on public it can't be in the right of way, most likely, so
Right,
that would be
but-
the issue.
yeah. But it was-
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's something the commission wants to allow, but I know that those have become popular in the last few years.
Yeah, I think I would allow those, as long as they're done tastefully. But how do you define taste? That's all I had, Chairman Johnson,
Okay.
thanks.
Commissioner Berkey?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Heiken?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Riles?
There's nothing. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Sprague?
I've satisfied my questions. Thank you.
Okay. I had nothing further. Marcy, do we need anything else for you to move ahead with the text amendments?
No, so I'm assuming you would like to continue this, and we will make revisions and come back.
Okay, do you think we have enough to get through the next time?
We'll try.
Okay.
We have to
All
go
right,
back.
so I need a motion to continue this to, what date would we like to shoot for?
So moved.
Second.
But we need a
Hold
date
on.
certain.
We need a date first, hang on.
Well, give me a second, please.
I know
I
a
would
bunch of
say-
things are starting to get backed up.
Yes, I would say, it's either September 8th or September 22nd.
Well,
I guess I'll say September 8th.
okay. So motion to continue this to September 8th.
So moved.
Second.
You got it?
Yep.
Could you repeat that?
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yadnak?
Yes,
Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. All right, so we don't have to close.
We need to go back to docket 21.
Yes, we will return to our originally scheduled agenda.
Do we have to open the public hearing in order to continue it, or
We
no?
do not need to open the public hearing in order to continue it, as long as it's continued to a date certain, we can just continue it. That's what we did with London Crossing as well.
Will they have to
If we continue it,
renotice?
if we continue it to a date certain, they will not have to renotice.
Okay,
That's why we
Well-
continue it to a date certain, otherwise we would just essentially table it and they'd have to.
are we September 8th on this one too? Okay, motion to continue docket 2021-30 to a date certain of September 8th.
So moved.
Second.
That was Commissioner Heiken?
Yeah.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Yadnak?
yes.
Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Okay, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 28th, 2021, including findings of fact for 2021-23A and B and 2021-24. Do I hear a motion? And I believe there's been some corrections on these.
Yes, there has been.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Yadnak?
Yes.
Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Approval of minutes of the regular meeting of August 11th, including findings of fact, excuse me, for 2021-25 and 2021-28,
No.
2021-29.
Yes.
Do we have to do anything?
So just so you know, the minutes that were in your packet, we've updated them. I don't think they needed, but we can reflect that they're the ones.
We were going to just add them as an amendment?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we can do the amended minutes distributed today.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's for docket 2021-25, the
Yeah,
expanded version.
the expanded version amended to include, additional findings of facts for 21-25. Thank you.
And you had corrections on that that
Yes.
you received
Yes.
tonight, right?
Yes, thank you.
Was that a yes?
So I need a motion then.
So moved.
Commissioner Berkey,
Second.
who got it?
It was Yednak.
Yeah, Nick got it.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken.
Yes.
Commissioner Riles.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Okay. Other business. Well, a reminder about our meeting next week at Public Works Cafeteria, Kitchen, Lunchroom, whatever it is called.
Yes.
6 o'clock, Marcy?
I think so.
I believe, so. I'm sure an email will go out prior to that with time details.
And that's at Public Works.
Yeah.
Public Works at 77?
Side entrance.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'll see where cars are parked.
Yep.
I think they usually post a sign there too. So that will be at 6 o'clock. Let's see, this is the 2-year anniversary for Commissioner Sprague being on this commission.
Wow.
Become one of the old timers.
Yeah, right.
Commissioner Riles, any other business from you? Anything you want to talk about?
Anything?
Well, within
Well,
reason.
I do want to share with you, all of you, and I appreciate the time and spending a lovely evening with you, but today I'm celebrating a birthday. So
Happy birthday.
it's a pleasure to spend it with you lovely folks this evening.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
What better way?
What better way?
Commissioner Sprague, anything? Any birthdays, holidays?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Commissioner Riles.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to express that in the 2 years that I've done this, I've enjoyed it immensely and plan on continuing doing it. That's all I have.
All right, go to the other end. Commissioner Heiken.
Just happy birthday, Commissioner Riles. That's all that I have.
Commissioner Berkey.
Happy birthday, Commissioner Riles.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yednek.
Now I have two things. I had one before, but happy birthday again. The only other thing, I'm sorry that I missed the London Crossing discussion during the last meeting, and I wanted to thank Chairman Johnson for bringing on my comments. I just was a little disappointed that we didn't get the street fronting retail, the station area plan. That they said they moved it some, but I think we still have that development as a building behind the parking lot. So I would have pushed a little harder to try to get that street fronting like we had in the, I really liked a lot of the design concepts that were presented in the station area plan. And for the new commissioners, if you haven't seen it, try to find it on the website. I think it's pretty enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic about it, but I think it's inspiring, you know, what they presented, the consultants. That I would have liked to have seen that. And also, when before that one came up, I'm thinking, we're doing a lot of drive-through restaurants on Dundee, almost to the point of saturation. And that project itself wanted to include 2 drive-through restaurants. And going forward, I personally would like to reconsider some of the additional drive-through restaurants all along Dundee. That's all I have then, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
Thank you. Mallory, any other business for you?
No business for me.
And Marcy?
Nothing from me.
Nothing, okay. So again, we pushed some things down the road. We're starting to pile up somewhere.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a bunch of projects to be resubmitted.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this lovely evening.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Could you tell me who
Let
made those?
me in the back.
Yeah, could you just tell me who made